And now for more insight, it's a pleasure to welcome to studio Gidi, former peace negotiator under Prime Minister Ehud Barak and author of Insight, Peacemaking in the Oslo Process, 30 years and counting. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Studio. What a crucial time. Heartbreaking right now. No outcome out of Doha. It sounds like these talks are in fact deadlocked. The Qatari Prime Minister saying there are gaps that just can't be shortened.
Clinched. So yesterday we heard Adam Boehler speaking about being closer to the deal than ever. We hear the Qataris saying that we are basically deadlocked. The question is who's right, and maybe hopefully it's some sort of a last-minute maneuvering. I will say that if the Americans are right, then Israel is being pushed into a deal that is very difficult for Israel. Of course, the hostages will be released, but the conditions of the deal will be difficult. We'll speak about that in a moment. If the Qataris are right, Israel is being funneled into a military operation that the military leadership in Israel, most of it does not want. We are heading toward direct control of Gaza, civil administration. We have to remember that the reason that the international companies were successful in supporting the humanitarian aid was because Hamas wanted it. If Hamas doesn't want these international groups operating on the ground, there will not be a disbursement of humanitarian aid. So we're going to have a growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. I have to say, you know, when I was involved in the negotiation, there was one moment where the Europeans came in and they pushed us to convene with the Palestinians. Then we saw the list of the Palestinian negotiators, and we immediately knew that there was no real intention on the Palestinian side to get to a deal. I have to say that I had some sort of a recollection of that when I saw the Israeli delegation going to Qatar.
Tell us why.
Because when you look at the mid-level delegates, in number 2 in Shabak, the political advisor of Netanyahu, Ophir Falk, you're looking at these people. These are not decision makers. These are not the people that can make the decisions on the ground in Qatar to actually get to a deal, and which kind of corresponds to what we're hearing from the Qataris and also from American sources, that the Israeli side has been unable or unwilling to move and toward the deal. I will say that the Americans are signaling growing impatience with Israel. First of all, of course, we saw the Trump tour the horizon in the Middle East, in Saudi, in Qatar, in the UAE without coming to Israel. The billions of dollars of deals that were signed, weapon deals that were signed, closing in on the qualitative edge of Israel with deals of advanced weapons, talking about F-35s to Turkey. All of this is signaling, is meeting the Syrian leader. Israel is being left behind, and all of us have to remember what happened on January 18. On January 18, Israel came into what it thought was just another round of negotiations, but turned out into a final round of negotiations. We didn't have an alternative on the table. We are funneled into a deal where, yes, we got the hostages out, but we allowed Hamas to redeploy in Gaza. We allowed Hamas to free prisoners that are non-Hamas prisoners. We gave Hamas a stake in the designing of the future of Gaza. All of these lessons from January 18 seem to have been forgotten as we're moving now into a similar situation where a deal could be imposed on Israel by the Americans.
Talking about earlier on in the year and the messaging out of the Trump administration, the president himself said if the hostages aren't freed, all hell would break loose. As you are outlining, we just saw that tour the president took of the Middle East, no stop in Israel, meetings that had huge significance for Israel's personal security happening without any Israeli contribution. At the same time, Israel is waiting to hear about what's going to happen with its hostages. So talk to us about what has changed. What happened to all hell breaking loose?
So I believe that part of what's happening to all hell breaking loose is the Americans spoke about mass displacement from Gaza of Palestinians, and eventually Israel taking over Gaza, handing it over to the United States so they can build some sort of a major, it was called Riviera, along the Gaza beach. Right now we see it's highly intangible. All the countries that were mentioned were actually, most of them were fake mentioned. Albania was mentioned, Morocco was mentioned, Somaliland, all these countries. None of this exists. Just last week we heard about Libya, and then a week later State Department led by Rubio said there is no negotiations with Libya. So the mass displacement is not happening. And that means that Israel is being kind of moving itself into a situation where it will be responsible for the well-being of many Palestinians, 1.5 to 2 million Palestinians. This is a very bad outcome for the war. And so basically, when we say all hell will break loose, how much worse can it be in Gaza? The population has been displaced. 70, 80% of the buildings have been destroyed. The humanitarian situation is really challenging for us, and we're paying the price internationally. So we're seeing a military, very questionable military operation. We're moving into a political diplomatic fiasco in Gaza, and therefore the pressure is actually converging on Israel. And I think that this is where we may have seen the Netanyahu's decision to turn on the humanitarian aid, and hopefully, I would like to see moving toward a deal at the end of the day in Doha, meaning I hope that Adam Boehler was more right than the Qataris when they were describing the situation in Doha.
Well, let me put you on the spot and say, if you can imagine that you are in that room in Doha, all these stakeholders are there right now. What is it going to take? At this juncture, Israel doesn't even know officially how many of the hostages are alive. No proof of life, no list, no confirmation, no Red Cross. Israel's still waiting for that information. What advice are you giving if you were sitting in Doha as we speak?
Well, first of all, the decisions are not being made in Doha. They're being made in Jerusalem. And what will be required in order to get the deal in Doha is the following things. Number one, acknowledging that there will have to be a Palestinian self-governing body that will replace Hamas. And that Palestinian self-governing body, in one way or another, is associated with the Palestinian Authority or the PLO. This is the first main change in the Israeli position that has to happen. The second is Israel has to come with its own plan about the future of Gaza. That plan will need to divide the area of Gaza into two territories. Area A, which will be controlled by the equivalent of Area A in the West Bank, which will be controlled by the Palestinians and the international force, and the security perimeter, which we can refer to as Area B, where Israel has security controlled. Israel will have to acknowledge that there will be a transition period of a few years, during which there will be capacity building and reconstruction of Gaza, ahead of discussing the future, you may want to call it permanent status of Gaza. These are the kind of ideas that if Israel comes forward and put them on the table, the Arab side will support us, the Americans will support us, the Europeans will support us, and then the pressure will shift to Hamas. Right now, I think that the military pressure may be on Hamas, but the political pressure is on us. And I think that there is a way to change these dynamics, but that requires Israel coming forward with its own vision for the day after and the political horizon of Gaza that connects the economic side with the political side. And it can be done, it should be done.
Would the Hamas threat still exist under the scenario you are painting?
So we have to remember that Hamas is a movement that has an economic side, social side, political side, and military side. We have to focus on getting the military wing out of Gaza, absolutely a must for the political process, and all the Arab countries around us support this. Egypt wants it, Jordan wants it, the UAE, Qatar, everybody is willing to support, everybody supports the displacement of the military wing of Hamas. Regarding the political wing of Hamas, there is a provision in the Oslo Accord that I believe that Israel should insist on, and that is that any political party that participates in the future government of the Palestinian Authority has to accept the Oslo Accords, namely accept the recognition of Israel. With regard to the social side, it's going to require billions of dollars investment in the social infrastructure, welfare and healthcare and education in Gaza, so that the money, whatever money that Hamas has, becomes irrelevant. Sadly, the Americans cut out all foreign aid, or most of the foreign aid, and USAID. So a major tool of American foreign policy is no longer existent. But at the end of the day, with billions of dollars on the ground, the social infrastructure of Hamas could be displaced. And then we're left with the economic side. And in the economic side, again, if there is a healthy economy in Gaza, movements of goods and services, the market begins to operate, the power of Hamas will be eroded. The ideology of Hamas will be there for decades to come, but the power of Hamas could be diminished, and it requires political vision. There is a plan forward, but right now we don't see it from our government.
Gidi Grinstein, always appreciate your insights. Obviously a developing situation. We wait to see what happens in Doha and, as you say, in Jerusalem as well. Thank you very much for being here in studio.